the Mirthmobile.
I think we'll go with a little
Mixtape Monday.
Excellent to each other. Party on, dudes!
party on!
Party on, Wayne!
Party on, Josh.
I think we've actually managed to go live. Technology is still fighting me a little bit. We're going to see how this goes. This has been quite the Monday. Right as I was getting home, well, I would say getting home from work, but of course I stopped to have a beer or two after work, and I'm getting home. I get a phone call from my apartment, from my property manager. Long story short, over the past, honestly, at this point, it's probably been going on about a month. They've constantly been having to like emergency shut off the water to the whole building and enter the different apartment units and inspect for slab leaks and whatnot and stuff, which they have previously given more than 24-hour notice. The last time, just a couple weeks ago, they had to enter my apartment. I got a written notice on my door as well as an email and other stuff that said, we need to enter the apartment to check for blah. At the time that they gave me that written notice, that was more than 48 hours in advance. They're only legally required to give 24 hours. Well, today I just got a phone call. It says tomorrow between 9 a.m. and noon, they need to shut off the water and enter my apartment. I just received the voicemail, didn't actually answer the phone call, was going to call them back, but I was like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to remain calm at this point. So if it's not like a emergency loss of life and limb, they're not supposed to enter the apartment without a minimum of 24-hour notice. But at this point, I'm going to see what they say. But 2, maybe 3 other units in my apartment complex have also just been recently very, very last minute removed, kicked out, evicted. I don't know if it's temporary or permanent or what, but I really feel like these people are doing some sketchy, illegal bullshit that I'm just not prepared to have that conversation quite yet. I need to compose myself. And that's just what happened when I got home from work. I'm not going to go into the details of my work day. We're here to have a good time. So first, let me crack open a beer. If you are here watching, please make sure to hit that like button. It really does help the stream and help the channel. But for those of you who have already tuned in, cheers. I definitely need this because unfortunately I am out of whiskey. So far, we've got Lady Marine in the chat. What is going on? Always good to see you. Blair to Blair, hello to you, sir. Also, thank you for tuning in. How's your weather out there now? I saw you had snow on Halloween. I have 2 beers. I have 2. But I've already had 3, so this will be all right. This will be good. Oh, it warmed up a little bit. Actually, I think that's right around where my weather was. I think it was a high of like 70, somewhere around there. So we're starting to balance out, but still no snow out here. It's a Monday. So far, it seems like my internet is cooperating. I'm afraid to say it out loud because I don't know. I'm looking at the icon in the bottom of my screen. It shows that I am plugged in, hardwired into my router. Did a little bit of troubleshooting and just basically came home, unplugged everything, reboot, reset, do the whole thing. Then just plugged the cable that's in my computer right here, plugged it straight into the modem. Okay, plugged it in. Immediately work. So I'm thinking, great. Is my router bad? Because they're both, my modem and my router, I've both purchased within the past year. They're both fairly new because when I started trying to do this thing, I started my channel almost 2 years ago, but really I didn't try the live thing for a while. Um, but when I started trying to do live, I said, well, I probably need to upgrade my plan because I had like the bare bones minimum slow internet because I live alone. Yeah, maybe I watch some stuff on Netflix here and there or something, but I'm not a gamer. Wasn't really doing anything crazy. But so I started doing the live thing. It was a struggle, so I upgraded to a higher price tier on my internet, and I wasn't getting the download speeds that they said I should have been getting. So I'm calling, I'm on customer service, all this. Oh, your equipment is outdated. I go, okay, fine. Go on Amazon, do a little bit of research, buy the modem and router that say I should be getting the download speeds that I'm paying for. I just did a speed test before starting this stream. It's like not even a fraction of what I am paying for. So it's another fun phone call I'm going to have to make at some point where they're probably going to once again tell me my equipment is outdated because they want me to just rent their equipment. But so far we're going good. It shows that it's plugged in. I don't my camera is not doing the spinning wheel of death like it was last Thursday when I tried to hop on the live stream with Roman. And it even did it to me a couple times last Monday. But they just want me to rent their equipment. And I'm like, I just bought a new modem and a new router not that long ago. Anyways, how you guys all doing out there so far?
No. No, man. Shit, no, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
So here we are. Got a couple of other short stories to throw out here before we really get into how stupid the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is. But actually, one, I did not skim this article like I should have. I can save that one for the end if I still got time to kill. This one, on the other hand, um, just kind of a rapid fire topic that I just saw pop up today. Slipknot has been known for quite a few lineup changes in recent years. It's actually kind of interesting. Early on, when they were a nothing band that no one knew about, and they put out their self-produced, self-released album. Between that and then their major label debut, they had a lot of lineup changes. But from that major label self-titled Slipknot debut, they maintained the same lineup, I want to say, until about 2014, when original founding member, drummer Joey Jordison, exited the band. There were some qualms about whether he left or whether he was fired, but he was one of the first ones to go. Bassist Paul Gray passed away sometime shortly after that. I believe it was drugs. I don't remember. Don't quote me on that. But this guy, Jay Weinberg, came in along with a new bassist to replace their bassist who had passed. Let's see what else happened. So then in recent years, Craig Jones, the guy that had the helmet with the nails on it and just did like the samples and stuff, he just very, very recently left. Chris Fenn, who was one of the percussionist drummer guys that had the long dick nose, he was fired a couple years ago. I guess he filed a suit against the band, whatever. They got a new touring member in there to replace him. Sean Crahan, better known as Clown, another founding member, took the summer tour off to stay at home, had some family health issues he needed to take care of. But now they're saying that drummer Jay Weinberg has exited the band, but they already deleted the post from it. So I read this article and I looked up, there were a few others saying the same thing. But on the socials for both Slipknot and for Jay Weinberg, there was nothing. So curious what actually is going on here, but basically down here it says the original post stated the following quote: "We would like to thank Jay Weinberg for his dedication and passion over the past 10 years. No one can ever replace Joey Jordison's original sound, style, or energy, but Jay honored Joey's parts and contributed to the last 3 albums, and we, the band, and the fans appreciate it. But as ever, Slipknot is intent on evolving. The band has decided to make a creative decision and to part ways with Jay. We wish Jay all the best and are very excited for what the future holds." Just kind of a short one there, but I feel like make a creative decision is kind of rock star lingo for we weren't getting along, so we got rid of him. I think it's still kind of in that same realm of how System of a Down have not released a new album since, I believe, 2005, even though they have continued to get back together and tour, do live performances. Every time they get back together and try to do an album, they come back and say, oh, well, they're creative differences. Spoiler alert, the creative differences for System of a Down and why they can't put out a new album is because guitarist and co-vocalist Darren Malakian is a greedy son of a bitch who wants 100% of the writing credits, meaning he wants more money. So he wants to basically write everything and tell the other guys, these are your parts, this is what you're playing. And it sounds like the rest of the band's not really down with that. Also, courtesy of my friend Sam, he defined Darren Malakian's voice perfectly in saying that, especially on that last double album they did in 2004, 2005, the Hypnotize, Mesmerize albums, where he took a little more of the front lead vocals on a lot of songs. Darren Malakian's voice sounds like a dial-up modem trying to connect to the internet. And I look at him and listen to him when he's singing, screaming, whatever, and all I can think is that you're just one of those kids that probably got sand kicked in your face a little too many times when you were a kid, but now you're in a famous rock band and you're trying to like strong arm people into doing things your way. And it just, the rest of the band is just like, nah, we're not going to do that. So anytime somebody says creative differences, that usually means somebody's being an asshole and the rest of the band is like, we're not putting up with this. Let's see. As far as I didn't get any stupid comments of the week this week. I feel like I just need to just maybe like once a week or something, just throw out a video about Oliver Anthony, because those get some of the dumbest comments. For the most part, they're positive and people are enjoying the content that I'm putting out and stuff. But just every once in a while, when I put out those few videos about Oliver Anthony, like every single week, I could easily highlight here's an idiot of the week, here's a stupid comment of the week. Haven't really had any lately, so I got to skip that one. In terms of new releases, we got more people popping in. Jacob Ironside, greetings to you, sir. Thank you for jumping in here. And Roman, migraine and all, thank you for being here. Yes. So I visited the Hall of Fame when I was fairly young, probably maybe like junior high age. And I mean, the little bit that I was able to like appreciate and comprehend at that time, I felt like made sense. You're walking around and like there's a display for the Beatles, there's a display for ZZ Top and stuff. I do remember questioning why Michael Jackson had a display in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but as compared to recent years of even just potential nominees and actual inductees, even at this point, I would say Michael Jackson belongs in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame more than some of the recent ones. But we're going to get into all of that here real soon in just a moment. But you're always dying because you're old.
Today is my 111th birthday. I don't know half of you half as well as I should like, and I like less than half of you half as well as you deserve.
Now, is it just me, or was there no audio on that, or did my earbuds just disconnect? I'm having major technology issues over here. Anyways, where was I? You know, Roman, you distracted me. Um, but no, it just I feel there was a time. I know Blair, you commented on my tweet saying that it's like they've been a joke since they opened, but I feel like there was a time when the Rock Hall of Fame was something important. Oh, good. So just my earbuds are not working anymore, even though they say they're connected. Good to know. I feel like there was a time where it had its place, but we've gotten to a place where it's just it's getting a little ridiculous. Before we really get into this year's inductees and the very moving speech that Tom Morello had for everybody, let's just talk a little bit about some of the controversy over the years of other people basically sharing the same thoughts that I think those of us here have. Um, Perfect segue. Speaking of Iron Maiden, in 2018, Bruce Dickinson of Iron Maiden criticized the Hall of Fame by calling it, quote, an utter and complete load of bollocks. I like the fact that he said bollocks. It makes me laugh. Run by a bunch of sanctimonious, bloody Americans who wouldn't know rock and roll if it hit them in the face. Dickinson has also expressed an overall distaste for the Hall of Fame entity, arguing that, quote, if you put music in a museum, then it's dead. Iron Maiden has been eligible for induction since 2004. Hard rock and heavy metal website blabbermouth.net observed how it had taken Kiss 15 years to be inducted, Deep Purple 23 years. Regarding his band's non-induction into the Hall, Judas Priest bassist Ian Hill stated in a 2019 interview, I don't think they like heavy metal music in general. Several people criticized the 2020 inductions because Dave Matthews Band was not part of the class, despite them topping the fan vote. See, now we're getting into it. Now we're talking about how Dave Matthews Band is not rock and roll. I don't really know what you would classify them as. They're a jam band. They're kind of like hippie, whatever. I'm not trying to like talk down about them. I'm not trying to talk trash about Dave Matthews Band, but it's like I would not call them rock and roll. You know, I don't get it. So Alice Cooper opened for Maiden a few years ago. Oh, that had to be a cool show. Let's see, what else do we got here as far as controversy? So I talked about this. No, I haven't done a video about this yet. Maybe I was just texting people and venting. Last year, Dolly Parton. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame put Dolly Parton on the 2022 ballot to be inducted. Parton requested to be removed from the ballot in March of 2022 after the ballots had already been sent to voters. In a statement, Parton wrote, quote, even though I am extremely flattered and grateful to be nominated for the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I don't feel that I have earned that right. I really do not want votes to be split because of me, so I must respectfully bow out. The Rock Hall replied days later she would remain on the ballot, in part because the ballots for the 2022 class had already been sent to voters. Although Parton had asked to be removed from the ballot because she did not think of herself as a rock artist, somebody who is actually honest, I do not deny Dolly Parton's place in music history, country music history. Yes, she is a major person, major name. Big deal in country music, huge deal in country music, but not rock and roll, not rock and roll. Then she was the first one to say it. She's like, I'm not rock and roll. Take me off the ballot. She was inducted. The Hall later responded, from its inception, rock and roll has deep roots in rhythm and blues and country music. It is not defined by any one genre, rather a sound that moves youth culture. Dolly Parton's music impacted a generation of young fans and influenced countless artists that followed. And I don't think anyone would ever deny that. Her nomination to be considered for induction into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame followed the same process as all other artists who have been considered. In April of 2022, Parton told Morning Edition she would accept her induction if she were selected, and she was announced as a 2022 inductee on May 4th. Even when an artist says, I'm flattered, thank you, I don't view myself as rock, please remove my name, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? But yes, she does indeed have class. Now let's go, let's look into some of the previous years. I guess they call them classes. In 2022, let's see here. Don't quite want to get to the current year. We're going to build up to this a little bit. It's really hard to read. 2022, Harry Belafonte, Elizabeth Cotton, Duran Duran, Eminem, in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame.
And that's all I have to say about that.
Okay, Judas Priest, there's something. Dolly Parton, there she is. Lionel Richie. So that was last year. Let's go 2021. Foo Fighters. Jay-Z. What? So somebody tell me how Jay-Z has some connection to rock and roll. Please tell me. I really want to just flip my whole desk over right now. LL Cool J. LL Cool J. Oh, Randy Rhoads. All right. Tina Turner. Anyone's thoughts on Tina Turner? Yeah. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to go through like every single year, but I just want to go through some of the more recent ones, mostly because there was a time when I was listening to a local morning radio show every morning when I'd get to work. You know, it would run from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. and it helped me get through the first few hours of my workday. I stopped listening to said morning show because throughout all of the hell difference does it make? I think my channel's shadow banned at this point. Anyways, throughout all the COVID stuff, there was a day where all 4 members of said morning show went on some big rant about how they think that people who didn't get the experimental jab should be charged higher health insurance premiums. And I shut it off in the middle of the show. It wasn't over yet. It wasn't 10 o'clock. They still had a couple more hours to go in the show. And I finally just took my phone out of my pocket and said, I think we're done here. But they used to cover stuff like this every year, like when the nominees were first announced and then when the inductees were announced. And so some of these more recent years, I remember just listening to this radio show at work and thinking, what the hell is happening in the world today? So this was the class of 2020. Whitney Houston, the Notorious B.I.G., These are the ones that were inducted. These are the ones that won. So Whitney Houston got in. The Notorious B.I.G. got in to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Let's continue. Class of 2019. The Cure, Def Leppard, Janet Jackson. Those are all kind of whatever. All right. 2018 wasn't terrible. Tupac Shakur in 2017. I mean, again, like some of these people that have been inducted, like I'm not doubting their impact on the musical community. I'm just asking the question of, does this warrant being inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I'm not necessarily saying that these people are untalented or didn't have impact on the the world or whatever, but I let's see if my computer can handle this. Yeah, let's see if that's another thing that was going on today with all my other technology issues stuff. My wireless keyboard has decided it just doesn't want to work anymore either. So that's been fun. That's what you get when you buy the cheapest stuff you could possibly find on Amazon. But let's see here. Copy. Let's go over here. Da, 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 da. All right. Where were we? So let's go ahead and click on over to the 2023 inductees. Oh boy, it's just it's a sad state of affairs. You guys ready for this? Are you ready for this? Also, once again, just as a quick reminder, if you are here watching, make sure to hit that like button. Or if you don't like what you see, you can hit that downvote button too. Either way is fine. Some kind of interaction. It's fun for everybody. All right, here we go. 2023 Hall of Fame inductees. Kate Bush. Can't say I'm familiar with. Yeah, I don't know. Sheryl Crow. Sheryl Crow. Boy, I just
reverse the rigid security.
Sheryl Crow.
There are so many.
Okay, now this is going to present a problem because I don't hear anything. Hold on.
Can you not hear me?
Let me. You ramble on. I'm gonna go switch earbuds really quick.
See, I came in and I immediately destroyed the show. Hi, everyone. Yeah, I'm dying. It's fine. Don't worry about it. So it's funny. So many of these folks who are in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I would be all about an American Music Hall of Fame or just a Music Hall of Fame, whatever you want to call it. That'd be fine. And I know I killed John. I'm sorry, Blair. No, I am Lady Marine, but I was I just couldn't bear the topic, so I had to come in. I had to come in.
Oh, good, I
You
can
can
hear.
have like an overall there, and the lad is back. The lad is back.
It's just a shit storm of none of my technology wanting to work.
I'm sorry.
I'm
I know
sitting here
it's
doing
never
this
good.
by
It's never good.
myself. If my earbud goes out, I'm like, whatever. I just can't hear my stupid clips that I play. But someone else comes in, I'm like, okay, I need to figure out how to fix my audio now. Yeah,
Oh
you think
no,
like
you
fucking
oh my God.
16-year-olds do this and are millionaires doing it, but we're over here just like a bunch of monkeys
Well,
fucking
you
a
were talking
coconut.
about Kate Bush. Do you know why Kate Bush is there?
Did she?
There,
Yeah.
no, because of Stranger Things. Because of Stranger Things. That's why she broke through that crust. She was very popular in the 80s. And then her song Running Uphill was featured in season 4. He said with a question mark.
Can't say I'm familiar. So
Stranger Things on Netflix, but it was a huge resurgence for her. And that album that it's on started selling again. And then people are like, well, hey, why don't we nominate Kate Bush? She's a lovely artist from the 80s. And so that's why that's why Kate Bush is probably there. You know, she's a fine artist. I don't have a problem with Kate Bush. Is she Rock and Roll Hall of Fame material? Yeah, about as much as Sheryl Crow, who also shouldn't
and
be
that's
there.
what I'm trying to say about a lot of these people. Like there are a lot of these people that I just pulled up all the way. I went back to what, as far back as 2017. There are a handful of people in there. We're like, I'm
and
not
you know how I
saying
feel
these
about
people.
the Foo Fighters. You know,
I know how you
have
feel about the Foo Fighters,
I
and
got some heavy issues with the Foo Fighters.
I recently added Everlong into my set list when I play my gigs on the weekends, and I die a little bit inside every time I play it, but it makes people tip me. It makes people throw a couple bucks
Well,
and say they appreciated the Foo Fighters song.
good.
So, you know, the only thing where I really have a criticism of other musicians doing that song or anything from that album is when Taylor Hawkins died, may he rest in peace. A lot of people were like playing like Everlong and like My Hero and stuff and saying, oh, you know, I'm dedicating this song to Taylor Hawkins. And it's like, he didn't record on that album. That was Dave Grohl. Taylor came in at a time where like they were filming the music videos and then touring and everything. So fine, I can maybe see the confusion, but it's like, if you're going to try to honor someone who has passed on, do just like 2 seconds of research by looking at a Wikipedia page and realizing that it's like the song that you're listening to on repeat to honor this guy, he didn't record.
No, he did not. And quite honestly, as much as I despise Dave Grohl personally, Dave, I can understand the Foo Fighters making it into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. So while you were
Pearl
on your
Jam was in one of those lists,
and fuck Pearl Jam. While you were in your wall of the cone of silence, what I was saying was, what instead of a Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, what I think would be a better thing is like an American Music Hall of Fame, or just like I said, a music hall of fame, and then you can break down into those subcategories. It works because then you have your rap, your country, your bullshit, your Dave Grohl.
They need to just change the name. Just call it the
You're right.
Because it doesn't even necessarily need to be the American Music of Hall of Fame, because they've inducted the Beatles.
No, exactly.
All these other people. Like, it could just be music in general, but it's like change the name. Just change the name of the museum.
Clever. Pop. No, that doesn't work out. It doesn't fucking matter. But
just music and just whatever. I don't know.
Yeah, the Modern Music Hall of Fame. The Modern Music Hall of Fame. That works because it fits in all of these things that we would qualify from the 50s forward. Elvis, the Beatles, Jerry Lee Lewis, Roy Orbison, all these artists. But I can just see these person. That's true. We do this in real life too. He's 100% right, folks.
This is not a bit.
No, it's not. This is John and I talking about music. We're very passionate about music. I mean, we've both been doing it for most of our lives, and this kind of stuff. Hey John, did you it's not fuck my brain. It's not controversial. Sorry.
I'd prefer not to, but okay.
No, but and did you talk about the Beatles stuff, the new Beatles thing? I know you did your you talked about
Um,
it solo.
not today. No, I did it last
Okay.
week a little bit. I haven't really
Well,
talked
go
about it yet today.
yeah,
But
let's
no,
if
it's
you
definitely
don't mind,
something
once
to
we
touch
finish
on
this topic,
because
if we could hit that just a tiny bit.
yeah, because when
it's
I talked
such a
about it
fun
last
thing.
week, the song had not been released yet. The 12
Yeah, oh yeah,
minute
yeah.
YouTube
So there we
video
go.
had
Yeah,
not
yeah,
been
yeah,
released
yeah,
yet.
yeah,
So
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there was a lot of unknown about it. But yeah, the video on YouTube came out, the
Yeah.
kind of 12-minute short where you could see how they did
Man,
it.
that
The
was
song
good.
itself was released. And even actually funny enough, I should have saved this article, but it's gone. It's somewhere in the interwebs. But I was reading something earlier today about various people reviewing it and people saying anything from it was a beautiful send-off to it was boring and everything in between. I wanted to punch
Of
people in the
course.
face that said it was boring because it's like,
Well, I mean,
whatever, we'll
everybody,
get
it
there.
is music. Music is a very subjective thing. It
Yeah,
just is. Things that you and I like, and you love James Taylor, and I don't love James Taylor. I don't hate him as much as other people hate James
that's
Taylor.
all right.
That's
But
that's a whole nother
you
side joke.
like Leonard Cohen and Nick Cave, and I think
I do.
they're
I
both
like Leonard Cohen and Nick
talentless
Cave, and you
hacks.
can't stand them. So it's. But the Beatles were such a unique phenomenon in music, and still are. They knocked Taylor Swift bing,
I did read
out of
that.
the
Yeah,
number
their
one spot.
song knocked her up. So what was actually
What?
really funny is the only other time in recent years that happened was when in 2019 when Tool released their first new album in 13 years, Fear Inoculum. The interesting point about when Tool released their new album in 2019, it had been 13 years since they had released a new album, but up until 2019, Tool was famously another one of those bands that was really holding out in the fact that if you wanted their music, you had to buy it in a physical format. You could not purchase it on iTunes.
Wow.
You could not stream it on Spotify. You could not stream it on Apple Music. Literally, the only way to get their music was to basically either pirate it or buy the physical
Wow.
disc, the physical copy. So, coinciding with the release of their first new album in 13 years, Fear Inoculum comes out in 2019. Their entire catalog went onto all streaming, all
Uh,
digital. You could purchase it, you could stream it, you could whatever. They knocked Taylor Swift off of all of the top, all of everything. And the Taylor Swift fans were like, I
oh,
want to say they were angry, but I think they were more confused because some of the articles that I was reading, the Taylor Swift fans were coming back and going, being like, yeah, this is some band that, like, I guess they were popular in the 90s and now they're making some sort of comeback and I don't really know what's going on. Now I want to be
that's
like,
fucking
look,
hilarious.
kid, this band never went away. They have
Well,
been
there's
touring this entire time. They just have not made new music
right.
since before you were born.
Well, one of the things excuse me,
He's dying.
that I find really amusing about this. So Taylor Swift just re-released her 1989 album, and funny thing about when the original album came out, I think it was 2016. Ryan Adams, not Brian Adams, not the fucking Canadian, but Ryan Adams, the American semi-country alt artist, literally re-recorded her album. And in almost immediately after she released it, he released his version of it. That's kind of weird. I've never seen anything like that before. But and this is again subjective. Subjectively, I like his version of the album better. I simply do. For one, I like Ryan Adams' voice. I like the way he does the arrangements. And it's just kind of funny. Same fucking songs, except Ryan Adams. It was like within, I mean, it wasn't even within a month. He fucking had his album out there. So now Taylor Swift re-releases 1989 in 4 colors, 4 different album
So you had to
covers as
go buy
well.
all 4 of them?
I do. I have all. I'm a Swiftie. I am the Swiftie. You can look at me and say
And
Roman's
you're
a
a
fucking
sucker for
Swiftie.
those special, like, collectible vinyls.
Well, I do like colors. That's true, but there, I have
Shiny
my
things.
I got my limits. But so she just dropped this album and re-releases it, and the fucking Beatles, ghosts from the past, come along and knock her off again. And I find this hilarious for a myriad of reasons. One, because I'm not a big fan of modern pop music. That's kind of neither here nor there. But the fact that the Tool did it, back in the day when they dropped their catalog, and then the Beatles, most of us are fucking dead
Just
by now.
one song.
Fucking with a ghost song.
One song. Yeah, there were during that
Oh, it
time
gives me
of
such
Tool.
joy.
During that time of Tool knocking her out of the top spots, there were some pretty great memes of like Thanos, but somebody photoshopped the singer Maynard James Keenan's face onto Thanos, and like he's snapping, and like Taylor Swift is turning into dust.
It's funny. It's funny stuff. I mean, is she in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame yet? Probably just a matter of fucking time.
There's oh, I forget what the criteria is, but there's like a certain number of years needs to elapse between your first big hit, or your first like commercially successful album or hit, whatever, to when you're eligible. So that's why bands like Foo Fighters, Pearl Jam, Rage Against the Machine, and all them are just now becoming eligible, because I think it's
okay. Got it.
I want to say it's probably like somewhere around 20 years or something. I think like from your first commercially successful either album or first hit. So in recent years, Pearl Jam was just barely eligible. Foo Fighters was just barely eligible. Rage Against the Machine
Pearl
was just
Jam
barely
should
eligible.
never have been eligible, by the way. Just for those of you taking notes out there.
So you hate Pearl Jam, apparently.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
Okay, let me clarify though. Like I'm not a huge Pearl Jam fan, but I do love their first album.
Well, that was their most commercially successful album. My favorite Pearl Jam song, and I actually do have one of those. I don't hate every single thing they did. Jeremy spoken. Fuck off, Jeremy. I love
Somebody
the
save that clip.
I love the song "Go" from their second album with the sheep on it, Versus. Go is a fucking great song, and I don't like Pearl Jam, but that song is good. Like I said, I can pick the things from.
They were very much of that era, like Pearl Jam and like Hootie and the Blowfish and stuff. Where like you have to add a vowel to the end of every phrase.
Hey, is Hootie? Speaking of which, is Hootie in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Yeah, they got to be, right? Hey, Matt, how are you, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, buddy?
It was a fucking joke. It was They've been it's not
just. So yeah, we talked about that a little bit earlier about Dolly. Yeah, I already talked about that part about Dolly asking to be removed from the ballot, and they were just sort of like no, and still inducted her. And it's like, I went through some of the recent years. I clicked all the way back as far as I think 2017, and it was like Tupac, Notorious B.I.G., Janet Jackson. I'm just like,
no,
not the world,
rock.
like.
But you're right.
But here we are.
Fucking Missy Elliott, are you fucking?
Here we are, Missy misdemeanor
Lord.
Elliott.
Man, I can't wait for Lizzo to get in there.
Here's the funny thing though. So like you look at like, okay, we're just looking at the names, but like, okay, let's go back to Sheryl Crow. Blah 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 blah. Powerhouse solo performances. Da 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 da. Influence reverberates through classic 1990s rock, pop, country, folk, blues, and the work of countless singer-songwriters. Somebody please explain to me where she has blues in her music.
Please explain to me countless singer-songwriters. Have you been influenced by her?
I have not. I've been influenced to not play crappy pop music. But,
crappy pop, rock, country.
Yeah. So and that's another solid point too. Is there are people in here that I am not arguing or doubting their impact in the musical community. I am just simply saying either change the name of the museum or stop inducting people that are not rock and roll. LL Cool J is not rock and roll. Dolly Parton is not rock and roll. Missy Elliott.
I don't have a problem with LL Cool J or Dolly Parton. I don't give two fucks about Missy Elliott. Sheryl Crow. Like I say, Kate Bush got in there in a Hail Mary from Stranger Things. But does she belong in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? Does she belong in there with the Beatles? Is she the same caliber artist
with Jimi Hendrix, with ZZ Top, with
the Foo Fighters belong there? Honestly, not really. No, they've been a successful band for 25 years. But as far as impact goes, Foo Fighters they're a rock band. They're just they're not a great rock band. They're kind of run of the mill. They've had a lot of
They're a
hits.
generic
But
rock band.
AC/DC is a great rock band. That's
They're,
what the
you know,
Hall of
arena
Fame should
rock,
be
sure.
for. Greatness. Fucking George
So-
fucking Michael. Are you fucking kidding me?
He is more rock and roll than everyone else on this list so far.
That's
I agree.
fine.
I agree that it's a little outrageous, but I'm saying if we're going from Kate Bush to Sheryl Crow to Missy Elliott, he is the
To
first
George
person on this
Michael.
list that is
Oh.
close. But we can just skip over that because kind of whatever. Willie Nelson. So now we're back to the great Dolly Parton debate, right? Like
I
the
love
whole
Willie.
thing about
I love Willie.
I love Willie Nelson. He
No,
again
Matt, you're
is
right.
he's a really important name in the country music world. And
Yes.
don't get me wrong, like he has crossed genres a little bit. Like he in his older age, he's done an album of Frank Sinatra covers, so he's kind of done like the crooner thing. Like he has crossed genres, but you know what genre, in my very humble little opinion, he has not crossed? Freaking rock and roll.
No, Matt brings up the same thing we were just talking about. A fucking Iron Maiden isn't there. Oh, okay. Got it.
Yeah.
And I guess, I mean, they're metal, but metal is definitely one of the rock categories. You know, we can parse rock up into a lot of different categories. Country is not a subcategory of rock. You know, blues, to a degree, but not really. That's where the roots were. But if you want to talk like R&B, when you talk like artists like Lionel Richie, that's not a subcategory of rock. That's kind of its own thing. So that's why these things, I mean, pop in I suppose in the most technical sense, yes. Because the Beatles, for me, and we've talked about this before, whereas I think the Stones were more rock, the Beatles were more pop of their age.
I think it. I mean, the Beatles and Rolling Stones were very close together in years in terms of when they were crossing
it's just kind of
paths
what
and
they were
everything.
doing.
But I do kind of feel like the Beatles started maybe a little bit earlier. They did their thing. By today's standards, the Beatles would largely be considered pop, whereas the Rolling Stones were very much more of kind of that straightforward British rock and roll. They kind of started to pioneer more of the arena rock thing that the Beatles just barely missed. They said that was a big part of the reason why the Beatles stopped touring, was because they just missed that window where sound systems and sound equipment were not quite what they were. So the girls are all screaming and making all sorts of noise, and they got to the point where they said that they were just like banging on their instruments with their elbows and stuff, and because they couldn't even hear each other, let alone the crowd hear them and stuff. And they just said, you know, it's not profitable to tour anymore. And around the time that they split up was probably about that time that like the Rolling Stones and Kiss and all those people started doing arena shows, because the technology for sound systems started becoming better, where the sound system could overpower the crowd. And if the Beatles had hung on just a little bit longer, they could have done that and probably been a more successul touring act. But at the same time, they might have been happier not being a touring act, because they could just sit at home and write music.
Would have made three of the Beatles a lot happier.
Not having Yoko Ono or everything.
The lack of Yoko. No, and it's a joke, but it's not a joke. If you watch that series from Peter Jackson.
Oh, I did.
Yoko was attached to John's neck like a fucking vampire.
Oh, I don't even think I think she had to go wipe his ass for him.
Yeah, it was terrible. And so I you know, they were in decline by the time that came out, but they were also in decline because of her. You know, you watch that series and you see Paul talking when John's not there, saying, you know, when they were doing their original writing process, they would basically live together and do the writing, because they were, you know, they had to be there together all the time to do it. And then when Yoko came in, that disrupted that process. So without the Yoko factor, the Beatles last long enough to hit the arena rock phase, and then we get to have a lot more conversations. Unfortunately, that didn't happen because the vampire came and started sucking John's soul out.
Yeah, but Jacob brings up an interesting point. So I've never actually thought about doing this, of having like just like a private stream where maybe a bunch of us just kind of hang out and whatever. And I don't know, like basically by private, do you mean just like we all get on StreamYard and don't necessarily broadcast it, but just hang out and listen to music, or what? Because either way, like that could be kind of a fun idea.
Well, yeah, because I mean, most of us, you and I are together, you know, in the same region.
Whoa,
But
whoa,
we have a
whoa,
lot of
whoa! Don't broadcast that, man.
we're not a couple. We're not a couple. We're not a couple. I not a classic couple anyway. But we have so many friends who like to discuss music who are not, can't wander out here to the studio of the Empire or down to Helix. You're man, you're not wrong. But I would say the majority of their catalog is more pop oriented. But yeah, the Helter Skelter, I love Helter Skelter. Are the harder edge of the Beatles. But in that same respect, the Rolling Stones had softer edge songs where, they were of that era. And I'm not talking about bands like Black Sabbath that crossed the line really from straight up rock over into metal. But yeah,
one interesting fact that I've always have been pretty fascinated with about Rolling Stones, specifically with Keith Richards, even as myself, never been a huge fan of the Rolling Stones, and I think maybe part of it is just because I didn't grow up hearing it. I didn't really get into it. My parents weren't into them, but Keith Richards has always famously removed the low E string from all of his guitars and then tuned the remaining 5 strings in an open G tuning, not unsimilar to a banjo tuning.
that is bizarre. I did not know that.
So he has always said that whenever he hears other people cover Stones songs, he can always hear that they're not quite right.
They're
because
playing it in a slightly wrong key.
He's playing a 5-string guitar in an open G tuning. And you never know that from listening to it. But look up any pictures. Let's see if I can just find one right now. Like, look up pictures of Keith Richards playing live and zoom in on the guitar. The low E is always missing.
Just ain't there. I didn't know that, man. That's
he just always, yeah. I saw an interview with him once where he was sitting in this studio, whatever, and they hand him an acoustic guitar and he drops the low E all the way down and pulls it out, and he couldn't get the peg out of the bridge, so he just puts the string under his foot. And he's like, "Oh, we're just gonna put that down there right now." Or he's gonna tunes the rest of it up and everything. And okay, let's see if we can
snip.
If we can zoom in on this one. Stop that screen. Share this screen. Yeah, let's do that. Let's go here.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, apparently I can't zoom in when it's just a photo.
No,
all right. Well,
what do you mean you can't zoom in when it's just a photo? Control
it's
that little
it's
wheel
not,
thing. You got to blow up the picture. You got to click on the picture if it lets you. Oh God, we're not going to get nudes of Keith Richards, are we?
I hope not. Oh, I'm on the wrong screen here. Here we go. Let's reset here. Let's go over here.
Hi, Keith.
It's still not. It's just it's gonna get all blurry.
Oh yeah,
well,
it's
not important. But anyways, take my word for it. It's a weird, interesting tidbit about him that all of their songs.
That is peculiar. You're right. I never even heard that before.
So here we are, Rage Against the Machine, which is another one of those bands where maybe you can argue their validity of being in the Hall of Fame, but this is the first band so far on this list that I would actually say is rock.
Of these many artists that we've just talked about?
So far, yes. This is the first band that I would say, okay, maybe you don't like them, maybe you don't think that they're of the caliber of quality to be in the Hall of Fame, whatever, but at least they were a rock band, for better or worse, for all intents and purposes.
Now, and granted, their style of rock, their music was rock, their lyrics were more that rock rap kind of thing.
Yeah, it was during that era where all that shit was popular,
And while I despise their politics to the nth degree, musically, I do still find them appealing.
They are talented. I'm right there with you. Where it's I hate to admit the fact that it's the rhythm section between the bass and the drums. When a song starts, and they got heavy bass riff and the drums and everything. Everything's just heavy 4 on the floor. You're rocking out okay, and then just all the weird wacky shit that Tom Morello does on his guitar. I will never. Quote me on this. You will never see me or hear me sit here and say that the members of Rage Against the Machine are not talented. I very much admired their talent, their innovation, all the wacky stuff that Tom Morello does with a very small, very simple pedal board. For all the weird stuff he does not have that many pedals, but he's very creative, very innovative. Like you're saying, like maybe their lyrics, their message, their mission. Okay, get out of here. But if I were to just like tune out the lyrics and listen, like I can jam out to some Rage songs. Like they are talented. I just, after 2 or 3 songs, I'm just like, oh my God, do you ever stop bitching? Like,
no, he whines an awful lot. Yeah. I'm good for about 3 Rage songs and then it has to stop. But musically, Tom, socialist piece of shit that he is a fantastic guitarist.
Very talented.
The bass player is a fucking weirdo. The drummer I know less about, but I do know he played with Black Sabbath on their last album, 13. Famously produced by Rick Rubin. Yeah, because they're the regular Black Sabbath drummer. He wanted more money. It's like, dude, you're not going to get to play with these guys ever again, but he chose not to.
Right? So, yeah, like this is the end.
Everybody else is original Black Sabbath, but then they got him, and he didn't play like Rage. He played like Black Sabbath. So
yeah, you gotta.
If you don't know,
you've got to know. You've got to know the gig. It was like when AC/DC like temporarily fired Brian Johnson because he was having like hearing issues and whatever stuff, and they brought in Axl Rose to complete touring obligations. It was like Axl Rose doesn't know how to be anyone other than Axl Rose. So it's like if you bring him in, he is not going to be AC/DC. He's going to be freaking Axl Rose. It's like you need to bring in a musician. You need to bring in a musician that understands the mission and understands this is not my band. I'm being hired to fill in. I'm being hired to do a job, and I need to do the job, which is exactly what he did for the Black Sabbath album.
I think something back in the day, Chris Cornell would have been a nice filler for AC/DC. Because Cornell was a very good professional.
Funny enough, because the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and all this stuff is just like not even on my radar anymore. The only reason I knew that there were new inductees is because of this article that I'm going to read some little snippets here, was talking about Tom Morello individually as just a solo individual accepting the award for Rage being inducted because, Rage Against the Machine is so anti-establishment that they didn't want to show up to receive their award, which again, we can go back to the Dolly Parton thing where it's like they still left her on, they still inducted her, whatever, but she at least came out and said, I don't want my name to be on the ballot. Can you remove me? They said no. She at least tried. Rage, if you guys are so anti-establishment, if you didn't want to be part of this museum, if you didn't want the accolades, whatever, you also within your rights could have come out and said, don't nominate us, don't put us on the ballot, don't vote us in. The museum still could have come back and said, no, we're still going to put you on the ballot, but at least they could have been like, we don't want this. So they accepted the nomination, they accepted the award, but Tom Morello is the only one to show up because, they're anti-establishment. I wonder how they feel about people pirating their music and their albums, and if people were like hopping fences into their shows and not buying concert tickets to see them live. It's like, once it affects your bottom line, you become a capitalist. Everyone's a capitalist when they're like, where's my money?
Well, those Rock and Roll Hall of Fame shows are notoriously interesting to watch because they get combinations of different musicians who and they put them all on stage together. Sometimes it works out really well. A couple of years back, it was 9 Inch Nails and Queens of the Stone Age and Lindsey Buckingham from Fleetwood Mac, all doing songs together. They did like 2 or 3 songs, and it was it's a really good thing to watch.
But has Fleetwood Mac been inducted? Because I saw in recent years Stevie Nicks is inducted as just an artist, but I don't know if Fleetwood Mac is in there.
Yeah, I don't know. They should be. I think they should be.
We're just going to disagree on that one, but anyways.
I like Fleetwood Mac. I think they were a good band, and they were certainly an instrumental band of their era, more so than James Taylor.
No, man. Shit, no, man. I believe you get your ass kicked saying something like that, man.
Whatever, but I'm also not claiming that James Taylor is rock and roll. Anyways, I want to read a couple of snippets here from the speech that Tom Morello gave when he accepted said award, which really like sparked my spidey senses about the fact that there are even a new class of inductees this year. So guitarist Tom Morello accepted the award on the band's behalf, saying, quote, "I am deeply grateful for the musical chemistry I've had the good fortune to share with Brad Wilk, Tim Comerford, and Zach De La Roca. Like most bands, we have differing perspectives on a lot of things, including being inducted into the Rock Hall. My perspective tonight is the great opportunity to celebrate the music and the mission of the band, to celebrate with the fifth member of the band, Rage Against the Machine's incredible fans. The best way to celebrate this music is for you to carry on that mission and that message." He continues on saying, "The world's changed by average, everyday, ordinary people who've had enough." I think a lot of us everyday, ordinary people have had enough. We just
I don't think we
disagree
mean it
on
the
how
same
to.
way. Yeah.
We disagree on how to fix that. Who are willing to stand up for a country and a planet. See, there it is. He had to throw in the
Oh,
climate change
God.
and the planet that is more humane, peaceful, and just. And that's what I'm here to celebrate tonight. Fans often ask, but what can I do? Let's start with this. 1, dream big and don't settle. Okay, generic enough. Every celebrity that
fine.
accepts an award always says dream big and don't settle. Yeah. Number 2, aim for the world you really want without compromise and apology. Okay, also very generic. Every celebrity says that. Number 3, don't wait for us. Rage is not here, but you are. If you got a boss, join a union. Fuck off your union. Get out of here. I don't need. I live in California. All right, like I feel like 90% of my income is taxed. I don't need more money coming out of my paycheck for just another government institution, for someone else wearing a suit sitting in office that's like, oh yeah, that guy down there on the shop floor running a machine, I know what's best for him. It's like, no, the union is just another group of suits. It's just another. Don't get me wrong, labor unions had their time and place. There was a time when people needed a union because companies were expecting them to work long hours, 7 days a week, no days off, no holidays, no nothing, whatever. After a while, like, okay, but guess what we have now? We have these really cool things called state laws that protect us. And I think enough money comes out of my paycheck now that I don't need another suit telling me what's best for me. Fuck off your labor unions.
Yes, thank you, Blair.
Which is really funny what their acronym is.
It is. It is.
Now, I'm not going to say that out loud, but you get it. You see where I'm going.
Matt Damon.
If you got a boss, join a union. If you're a student, start an underground paper. If you're an anarchist, throw a brick. Okay, right there. Hold on a second. What's all this stuff going on against Trump right now about inciting violence and about everything, whatever? He literally just said, if you're a this, throw a brick. Yeah, you're going to throw a brick at just
destroy
like a small business. Like, let me tell you.
Fuck him.
3.5 years ago, when all the BLM riots were going on, right here in my neighborhood, close enough that I could hear it from my apartment, was people marching and protesting and literally burning down 3 buildings, 2 banks, and an architectural office building. Burned down 3 buildings in my neighborhood, went through the village that is mostly occupied by small business owners that are just trying to feed their families and just trying to get by, breaking windows, stealing things, rioting, looting, everything. He is encouraging, if you're an anarchist, go throw a brick. Okay, you know what? I bring that up and say, hey, this happened in my neighborhood. People were throwing bricks through windows. People were burning buildings down. And they look at me and go, oh, well, you need to check your white privilege. I'm like, I'm sorry. These are business owners that I personally know because I frequent these places and I care about these people. But you're over here like, oh no, like their anger was justified. It's like, that shop owner is not the reason why you're angry.
No, and well, it's just a bank, man. Tell that to the employees who don't have fucking jobs anymore. Tell that to them.
Okay, the bank, like, oh, the establishment, whatever. But when they went through the small businesses, like the people who it's like, Even as I'm saying this right now, like I can immediately picture faces of like, this person owns that business, they got a window busted out. This person owns that business, they had to stand out front of their business with baseball bats to ward off people from doing anything to their business. Like, fuck off, throw a brick. How many needs to throw a brick at his head?
Well,
if you're a soldier or a cop, follow your conscience and not your orders. If you're bummed out you didn't get to see Rage Against the Machine, then form your own band and let's hear what you have to say. If you're a human being, stand up for the planet before it's too late. Of course, again, he had to throw in the bullshit climate change stuff. Like
the biggest lie on the planet is climate change.
So he ends his statement by saying, many thanks to the Hall of Fame for recognizing the music and the mission of Rage Against the Machine. We are grateful to all the passionate fans, the many talented co-conspirators we've worked with, and all the activists, organizers, rebels, revolutionaries, past, present, and future, who have inspired our art.
See, I don't think what Tom fails to recognize is that if this were the world that he somehow envisions, Rage Against the Machine would not be allowed to exist in it.
Well, and not only that, but it's like the reason why they've been able to do their music and do what they do is because they make money doing it. Otherwise, they would have to go join a labor union and work a day job and try to do the band at the same time. So it's like, you guys, you make a living playing music. That is capitalism.
Yeah. Yep. Getting to do something you love that is an art, like
for a living,
like painting or sculpting or music or acting,
for a living.
Yeah,
you don't have
those
to
don't
go
exist
work a 9 to 5
outside of capitalist economy because they can't.
Yeah, like you don't have to go work a 9 to 5. You don't need a side hustle. You don't need whatever. You can,
or you're an agent of your
music, tour, play shows, do the whole thing. But it's capitalism bad. It's like, yeah, how much of your profits are you sharing with random nobodies? Okay, so this one I gotta admit I was unfamiliar with. The Spinners, but right here in the description, in the first sentence, the Spinners remain one of the most beloved R&B vocal groups in the world. So right away, and then it goes on, initially Motown band, Detroit origins, blah 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 blah. I'm unfamiliar with them, but I'm not going to disregard the impact that they may have had on the musical community. They say they're a big deal in the R&B, a big deal in Motown. Fine, not rock and roll.
No, and people would bring the point, well, without groups like the Spinners, you don't have modern rock and roll. That's fine, but this is why we say that the name doesn't work. Spinners are not rock and roll. They're not. Did they influence rock and roll? Sure. I mean, a lot of the R&B, the blues, country all had an influence on rock and roll, but are not rock and roll.
Wait till we get to the next one.
Oh God.
DJ Kool Herc. Again, I have no idea who this is.
I literally have no idea who the fuck this guy is.
Again, right here in the very first sentence.
Oh, Lord.
DJ Kool Herc is one of hip hop's founding fathers. Hip hop. Hip hop. Not rock. Hip hop's founding fathers, his innovation and experimentation created the blueprint for hip hop. And set the stage for future artists and DJs to build upon. I once saw a meme saying that going to see a DJ live and saying you went to a concert is like watching the Discovery Channel and saying you went on vacation.
Oh, I did go on a safari, yes.
I'm sorry, I don't know who this is.
He's a punk guy from
Original Punk.
I'm sorry. I don't know who that is, though.
I was gonna say, it's like, I thought if anything, if this was a punk guy, I thought you would have known who it is, but it kind of looks like Jeff from
here's the thing though. I think he must have been a part of something. I just don't know which band he was.
So
because that's what it looks like.
I don't think it was this year, but in one of the previous years, they inducted. Oh man, my brain just totally went blank. Can't remember the person's name, but they inducted Elton John's songwriter.
The song partner.
So I kind of thought about it for a minute, and I was like, is that really a thing? But I'm like, I guess like even if you're the songwriter, I guess you have a place in the hall. But now it's kind of that thing of like, where do you draw the line? It's like, do you have to be a performer, or can you be a producer? Can you be a songwriter? So Yeah, like you're saying, maybe this guy was just involved in other people, but tell me I'm wrong, but he kind of looks like Jeff
Wow.
from Burning Beard.
No, so I just pulled him up here. So this dude was around for a long time. He became popular in the late 50s.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Which is kind of their description of him is a little bit interesting. He died in 2005 at age 76. So country, rockabilly, surf, garage rock, blah 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 blah, a lot of different things.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean that's a kind of an interesting description of him. So no, I'm still not familiar with the dude though.
Let's continue. Shaka
Oh, for fuck's
Khan.
sake.
I don't think much needs to be said about that other than everything that we've been saying for the last hour and 11 minutes.
Same argument. Same argument.
Again, not arguing her place in the musical community, but not in the Rock Hall of Fame.
Bernie Taupin, that's it. Thank you, Blair. The songwriting partner.
Al Cooper, massive influence on American music, composer, multi-instrumentalist, singer, arranger, producer.
I got nothing.
Sorry, I'm also not familiar. Sounds like he's more of a producer.
There he is. That's Elton John's.
Oh, there you. Okay, so it was this year.
Yeah. Yeah, Elton actually.
When I kind of think about that, it's like I guess it kind of makes sense because it's like maybe he was a behind-the-scenes guy, but if he was the driving force behind a lot of really big hits.
So Elton John, when he was inducted into the Hall of Fame, he gave Bernie his trophy.
Okay.
So now Bernie has his own trophy. So I guess Elton gets his back.
All right. And this last
Don
one,
Cornelius, Soul Train.
Again, soul, R&B, dance, and hip hop.
Soul Train was a fine show. We used to watch it in the 70s.
Because you're old.
Because I'm old. Again, not rock and roll, but Soul Train actually, the show didn't just focus on. It did have it had other artists on it, but that's not kind of neither here nor there. But yeah, Don Cornelius was. I mean, that was his baby. So when I think Don Cornelius, I don't think rock music. I definitely think R&B and soul. It is what it is. Again, made contributions, big contributions. Did he make big contributions to rock? No, he didn't. But that's we go back to the problem of namings. Whatever. It's fine. It's fine. Yes, Blair. Yes, yeah. It's Saturdays.
But yeah, so that is your 2023 class of Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees. Only, I think, what did we determine? So Bernie Taupin,
3,
and then maybe Rage Against the Machine. So maybe only like 2 that I actually kind of consider rock, in my humble opinion.
Yeah, there was a kind of a bunch of rando stuff in there. Singer songwriter Sheryl Crow is like a modern, I would singer songwriter, I guess, kind of thing.
Pop country. Pop at
but
best.
she's not. Again, there's a bar that they should be trying to meet when they're doing these nominations. Sheryl Crow does not have the same impact as the Beatles.
I'm almost kind of starting to wonder if it's kind of like the Hollywood thing of just, it's like, as long as you play the game and play the woke agenda, you get on the list. Like,
right. Well, what's her the other girl? Brain stopped working. Running up the hill. From Stranger Things.
But you know what the worst part of all is? I never learned to read.
It's true. It's true. Well, we were just whoever the girl is above Sheryl Crow. Like I said, she was kind of an emo-y thing back in the Kate Bush. Thank you. Does she belong to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? No, she doesn't. She's a fine artist. She doesn't belong there though.
No, I think we're pretty much at a place where the lines are blurred. Because also, again, going back to like the days of, say, like the Beatles and Rolling Stones, it's like there was not as much music, so there weren't as many different bands, and there were not as many different genres. So it was a lot more of kind of a clear cut, who was what and everything. Now, like, any Yahoo can put their music on YouTube, put their music on Spotify, can put, like, there's so much music out there now that it's just like nobody knows what anything is anymore. It's just,
you look at historical, are they going to leave a mark historical?
Probably
the Beatles,
not.
yes. The Rolling Stones, yes, certainly. Kate Bush, like I said, without Stranger Things, most
Like, I'm
of the
actually kind
modern
of
audience would have
curious.
no idea who she is.
I'm actually kind of curious now that I think about it. I'm not going to look it up, but whatever. I'm even curious to see if like Pink Floyd is even in there. Because if we're talking
I
about acts
don't
from,
know.
if we're talking about acts from like the 60s and 70s,
Mhm.
I know you're not a fan, but it's like I would think that Pink Floyd
Mhm.
qualifies as a lot more rock and roll than anything we just went through in this list today.
No, I would agree. Yeah, Mrs. of the Empire likes Pink Floyd. I myself am. I don't despise Pink Floyd. Please
I
take
get
my
it. I
remarks.
get it. There, it's
I just don't care.
it's
It's
like
just one
many
of those
bands
things.
that I appreciate. They're more of an acquired taste to some, and that's fine. I'm fine with that. But so since we've made it through the list, and we already touched on it a little bit, but the new Beatles song, let's talk
Mhm.
about that a little bit more.
This was interesting because you and I discussed the AI thing a couple weeks back,
Okay, good. They are in there.
specifically
Okay, that's good
in
to know.
that. Oh, thanks, Matt. So, Matt, he knows all the things about all the things. The AI aspect of this, I think that was misrepresented
It
when we were
was because
talking about a
I
couple.
was skeptical at
Yeah,
first too.
yep. And I understand because now that we've got the song out there, and I watched that 12-minute video is gold. It explains it so well what they mean by the AI.
Well, and
All it,
even then, like even
it's
in the 12-minute video, I don't feel like they ever used the term AI. I think
no,
that
no,
was
they
like a
didn't.
news.
They didn't. They
Yeah,
didn't. They
that
used it
was a
in the
news
article,
headline
and it
where
was
they were
wrong.
basically
Yeah,
it was clickbait is what it was. It was clickbait
yeah,
where they were saying the Beatles to use AI to release new song. They
not
came
true.
out there. Paul very quickly came out and said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, hold on." He's like,
Mhm,
we're not artificially creating anything." Like, 'cause I don't think, and like, once I thought about it, because at first I was like, how heartless would that be? Like, oh, Paul McCartney is just
yeah,
like, oh, whatever, we're gonna use AI to make. But once I really, really thought about it, I was like, yeah, Yoko is a total succubus, whatever. But like, Yoko handed off the tape. Their son Sean, signed
that was
off on
back
it.
in 1991 or
Paul and
so.
Ringo
It was a long
signed
fucking
off
time ago.
the whole thing, and I'm like, between all the people involved, I'm like, I don't think
Yeah,
anyone involved in this would have been okay with them being like, "Oh, we're gonna artificially create John's voice."
yeah.
Not like, so, yeah,
Yeah, all it did, and when you watch the video, they'll explain it in greater detail. I'll just say what they were able to do because of Peter Jackson, the technology they used for the Get Back
the freaking
documentary,
wizard.
they can separate the sounds. So the computer recognizes this is John's voice, this is all the other background noise and guitar and piano and whatever, and it's able to separate his voice out from all that. And that's all. That's what they meant. And so they were able to put the voice in the recording and do all the same mixing shit that you do with any other voice you're putting into your, your mixing program because that's what everybody uses now.
Right. It,
Um,
it was it was basically like making it to where, like, if they had recorded the song today, they would have recorded the piano separate, they would have recorded the
right.
voice separate, and then you could mix everything separately. So that gave them the ability to do that, because they said when they tried to do this back in the 90s,
Yeah.
and
With him.
the articles all famously said that, like, George said that, oh, this song is absolute rubbish, we can't do it. Like, again, people spinning stuff out of perspective. They're like, oh,
Mhm.
George said the song was rubbish. I'm like, George didn't say the song was rubbish. He said the quality of the demo was rubbish, and they
All it
couldn't
was John
separate.
recorded into a cassette recorder back
Right.
in.
And they couldn't separate John's voice from the piano, but because of the fact that the little tiny tape recorder was sitting on the piano and he's singing into it, naturally it was going to pick up the piano more because it's sitting on top of the piano. And then so, like, they said every time they tried to turn up his voice, the piano just came bleeding through, and they
Mhm.
couldn't work with it. George got frustrated and said, this is rubbish. I can't deal with this. I can't work with this, whatever. But they saved his guitar tracks. They saved some of the stuff that he did
Yeah,
back in,
because they
is it
all did go into the
90
studio to
94,
try
95?
to do this.
Yeah, it was like 94, 95. So then obviously 2001, we tragically also lost George. So now only half of the original Beatles are still alive. This new technology becomes available. Peter Jackson gets a hold of all the old tapes of when they were filming. They're doing the whole. Basically, it came from when they did their Let It Be film that the George Harrison estate will never let see the light of day again. But he re-edited the footage, made it seem a little more cheeky and fun, like they still got along. Still showed the part where George walked out and quit the band, but
I'm at that part right now.
other than that, like they tried to paint it a little more in a positive light of like, oh no, they were still getting along. It's like, no, there's a reason why they broke up. Anyways,
you can actually you get a lot of those vibes.
You can see the tension. You can see that it's just like George would bring an idea and Paul and John are just like, that's stupid.
It is funny because George was just kind of lucky to have a job at that point. Because when he leaves and they're like, well, who are we going to get to replace him? I think Ringo said that. And and it was either John or Paul said Eric Clapton. And nobody laughed. They literally meant, well, let's get Eric Clapton to come. And it wasn't a fucking joke. So it was like, all right, I guess Clapton will just fill in because he can do it easily.
But he has famously said the reason why he did not accept was because, in his words, being, a good old British man, said that, oh, George and I were mates and I couldn't do that to him. If it had been anyone else, they would have been like, hell yeah, I'll join the Beatles. But Eric Clapton was like, oh no, George and I are friends, I can't do that to him. But like, yeah, they were totally just like, just bring in Eric Clapton.
The British are very, very polite. So that's something that Americans can solve in about 5 fucking seconds because we're direct. Will take 3 days for the British to solve because they're so fucking polite.
Well, because like they have to brew up some tea and they have to talk about it, and then they have to.
Well, that's like when they're talking about Yoko during this thing. It's hilarious because they'll say some fairly insulting things, and then Paul will say, "Yeah, but she's great. She's great. She's attached to him like a fucking vampire, but she's great. She's great." And it's just funny because they are, even when they're insulting you, they're still polite about it. It's hilarious.
But no, I very much think that I think the song was such a perfect send off.
I think the song is good. I like the song.
It's amazing. It's amazing to me that John wrote those lyrics and recorded that demo over 40 years ago. So and here's like and I'm gonna be completely honest, like before I even watched the 12-minute video on YouTube, like I just listened to the song. So like I'm at work and okay, it's up there. I pulled it up. I listened to it probably like two or three times through, just listening to the song, and then I watched the little short video on YouTube. And I gotta admit, like I got a little emotional, like there, because I was as skeptical as anyone else, thinking like this is gonna be a bunch of garbage, like they're just trying to milk one last song and they're this and that and the other. But like I listened to it and I was just like, my God, like this is beautiful. Like this is a great send off. This and again, I keep telling myself, I kept thinking, John. I mean, John died in what 1980, and so this demo and these lyrics and this song that he was working on, he wrote over 40 years ago, well over 40 years ago. But the initial story that I had read at one point was that when Yoko gave that tape to Paul in the 90s, and they remastered a couple songs and put it on some compilation that came out in the 90s, but this was the song that they couldn't quite work with. I had read a story that said when Yoko gave that tape to Paul, the cassette, the handwriting on there from John said "for Paul," meaning like John wanted to like mend fences. John wanted to collaborate. And I've heard stories from Paul where he says like the two of them, like they had kind of talked on the phone a little bit and stuff. And, sure, maybe they weren't the best of friends at the time and stuff, but they had talked. It wasn't just total radio silence before John passed. But that like he had this cassette where he was like writing these songs and doing this thing. And he wrote on the cassette for Paul. Like he wanted to like make these demos and these songs and give them to Paul. Like, maybe they weren't going to be Beatles songs. Maybe he just wanted to collaborate just as John and Paul or whatever. But just that like heartbreaking thing of like, he wanted these songs to be for him and Paul, and he died before they could do anything with them. So for this like final send off, and the song being called Now and Then, the lyrics, the everything, like I listened to it and I was like, I got a little teary eyed. I was like, oh my God, like this is really, it's just such a weird thing that 40, 45, 46 years ago, whatever, he was like writing the song and doing this, and then to never know that this would actually be the final song that would feature Paul,
So far
John,
down the
Ringo,
road.
and George, all four of them together. Now that John is gone, George is gone, and it's like it was. I thought it was such a beautiful send off. I thought it was the most perfect final song for them to all work on. And you can tell, okay, they had to do some auto tune to move the notes and get them in the right place, and they had to do some stuff to make it work. But it was still really John's voice. It was still really Paul, really Ringo, really George. Like the whole thing.
Mhm.
I was like, I got really emotional listening to it. I was like, this is beautiful.
No, yeah, I totally. And if you haven't, if you guys haven't had the opportunity to watch that 12-minute video, it's well worth it, and it's funny because by the time the video is over, you don't want it to be over. You don't want those 12 minutes to end. You want more of this thing. And when you listen to the song or watch the video, quite honestly, I had the same experience. I don't want it to be done, but it is. I mean, it's that's leaving your mark. I mean, that's what we talk about the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. That's leaving your mark.
Yeah, because I mean, after that, it's like, what else are they gonna do? It's like all we have left now is Paul and
Right.
Ringo, and they unless they unearth some more undiscovered demos or something,
Mhm.
that's everything they have from John and George. And unless they do go down the dark path of using
Yeah,
AI,
I
which
hope they don't do
I
that.
hope and
I
pray
mean,
that they
will
never do,
somebody
because that
someday
doesn't benefit
probably, but
anyone. Because at that point, it's fake, it's
yeah,
artificial, it's
right.
yeah.
Any monkey with a
I don't
keyboard
know.
and a program.
No, I still think that because I come across a lot of articles on my phone of reading stuff about how they're like, oh, we asked AI to write a song as if Kurt Cobain was still alive, and what would he write in 2023 now and stuff. And it's not audio, but it's like it spits out lyrics of like what would Kurt
Mm,
Cobain write about in 2023. And I'm reading this stuff going, they're training this shit. They're training AI. They're
mhm.
feeding information into AI to train it. And so they're like giving it all this Nirvana music and being like, okay, spit out a new song as if Kurt Cobain was still alive. I read something once that said they are feeding AI Stephen King novels to train it. So
Eh, that's not
theoretically,
much of a
yeah, Stephen King used to be,
he
well, we
used
won't
to
get
be.
into that.
He
But
used
it's like
I feel about
Stephen
Stephen.
King could potentially be out of a job soon, because if they're feeding his novels into
Eh,
AI, then all of a sudden they can just be like, "Hey, AI, give us a new Stephen King novel," and then Stephen King's over here like, "WTF, mates?" Like, which would probably be a good thing at this point because he's just a
yeah,
liberal mouthpiece that
I can't stand him.
just has like I love how much Trump lives rent free in his head.
He does a lot. Yeah, it's quite impressive, really.
And his whole thing about, oh, I'm gonna leave Twitter. I hate Twitter, and then he keeps tweeting about how much he
And
hates
yet, and
Twitter. It's like, oh, like why
still
haven't
he
you left
remains.
yet?
Him
So
and
he's
Rob
still
Reiner,
here. And Rob Reiner.
the two biggest idiots on Twitter,
I hate the fact that he made Spinal Tap because I love that movie.
and Princess Bride. I know it's like, man, you made these really good movies.
Oh,
I
Princess
wish you wouldn't
Bride.
talk. Please don't talk ever again.
Stephen King. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much the path we're heading down.
No, yeah, you're not wrong, Matt. Yeah, Lord.
Well, with all that being said, what do you got going on this week, Roman?
On Thursday, provided I survive today.
Yeah, well,
Um,
real quick,
oh,
just to cut you off. Looks
yeah,
like
we're on our
Blair's
way out
already
right
got a
now, Blair.
cutout, so we're kind of wrapping it up now. But if you got to
Yep.
take off, always good to see you. Thanks for popping in, and yeah, we'll see you sooner
Yeah,
than later.
Blair's going to be there on Thursday. We're doing our big Highlander show, which
Ah,
I'm really excited about that big panel. And that's one of my favorite movies from from the 80s. It's one of those movies that did really shitty in the theaters, but then went to HBO or whichever service was around and became this
oftentimes
giant
kind of seems like the
cult.
movies
Yep.
that fail in the box office do way better after the
Yeah.
fact.
And
I
then,
want
and
to
then
say,
it
like,
creates this
honestly, probably
life after death.
some of my favorite movies I think were box office bombs, like Big
Yeah.
Lebowski, like yeah.
Well, it's the same. The guy who wrote The Prophecy, which we were talking about a couple weeks ago, wrote Highlander. Same guy. And both of those movies did terrible in the theater, but they had
Yeah.
this amazing afterlife. Well, Dark City, which we talked about some time ago. All these films, the big cult followings in our community, but It did well overseas. Well, it's still, I don't think it, I saw the numbers and it still didn't make like $7 between domestic and global office. Greg Whedon, yep. So yeah, it's just so that's going to be a fun show. And then the following week, I think you're back with us doing Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yes.
The venerable Thanksgiving classic.
Definitely looking forward to that one, because really, it's like, how many Thanksgiving movies are there out there? Like, you get that, and like it's Thanksgiving Charlie Brown. And
Charlie Brown. I was just thinking the same thing. Yeah, so that's just so Thursdays 5:00. That's what you're getting, and then it's Thanksgiving the following week. So we're not doing a show that
we're off, yeah, and I'll be out of town.
I don't want to get a fucking divorce for Thanksgiving. So
because actually, yeah, I think for Thanksgiving I'm going out of town on Thanksgiving, coming home Monday, so I probably won't even have a stream that Monday. Because fun tip, kids, if you're traveling out of state to visit family, sometimes it is actually cheaper to fly out on the holiday than prior to. Because think about Thanksgiving. I'm going to go see my family for Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving's on a Thursday. You want to get there on like Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever. Oh, no. I'm flying out on Thanksgiving, arriving at 1:45 in the afternoon. Plenty of time to still have dinner. Be there Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Forget if I'm coming home Sunday or Monday. But either way, I will probably not have a stream that week as well. Because whether I come home Sunday or whether I come home Monday, I'm going to be tired. And I'm going to have nothing in the...
Right.
Nothing, no topics, nothing ready to go. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, the end of the year is a little sparse.
A little hit and miss here as we get towards the end here.
Yeah, so those two big shows over here, and then we'll see what rolls out for the remainder of the year. And Pippin the dog is getting his surgery on Friday. So say a prayer for Pippin that he heals up solidly. And
poor little guy. I wonder if they'll give him the full cone or just like the pillow.
Oh no,
that's kind of like the new thing now, where they get like the pillow where they still can't like reach, but it's not like the cone that keeps them from walking down hallways and stuff. Like, I don't know, we'll see.
There'll be pictures of poor humiliated Pippin, I'm sure. But I just hoping because our last puppy, the unfortunate Doc who didn't get to live with us very long, the incompatible dog, his surgery did not heal well, and we ended up spending a fortune in emergency visits to the late night vet here in San Diego because his shit just did not heal, and it was really bad. So I'm I'm hoping everything goes well this time, because those that could impact my life is complicated anyway, and I don't need a dog's nether region.
Here I thought that retirement was supposed to be easy and convenient.
For most people, it is. For most people, it is. For me, it is. It's not.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's we'll go ahead and call it a night after that. Thank you everybody in the chat for hanging in there with us and listening to our rant. And Roman, thank you for joining in. I know you said you weren't feeling well tonight, but
thanks for having me
last minute.
And
like I said, you are always welcome anytime. But I know you have a lot of other stuff going on, obviously. So I don't want you to feel overstretched, whatnot. But like I said, we're trying to keep you from getting divorced.
And I appreciate that. I do.
That's it. Anyways, thank you all so much for hanging out in the chat and for tuning in. And again, of course, thank you, Roman, for hanging out. This has been a Mixtape Mondays, where I get to just sit and rant and complain. And we'll see you guys next time.
Be excellent to each other.